Hello lovely people, this week I'm doing the stay-at-home book tag.
Dooby 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 doo. Dooby 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 Sophie Vlogs.
But I was tagged by the very lovely Monique at Bookwitch Reviews, and so I'm going to give it a crack. So, first prompt is Laying in Bed, a book that you could/have read in a day. The first one that came to mind is one that I don't have with me because I've lent it out, but that's Sourdough by Robin Sloan. I really enjoyed Robin Sloan's Mr. Penumbra's 24-hour bookshop. It's very much one of those, if you're a book lover and you like books about books, that you'll probably enjoy. But Sourdough was all about sourdough. Shock horror. But it was looking at not just like sourdough and like why people find sourdough interesting and like the bacteria, like the culture and blah 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 and how it works, but also about like forward-thinking food in general. Like it's about this woman who is a coder, like a software engineer coder type thing, and she's really dissatisfied with her life. She like doesn't dislike her job, but like her life is just like a bit stagnant, and so she like meets these guys. They give her a sourdough starter. She gets like into making this sourdough. It gets a little bit like beyond the rules of our reality at places, but I just really enjoyed it. It was a really lovely read. It was kind of everything I needed at the time. And the next question is Snacking, a guilty pleasure book. I don't really believe in guilty pleasures. Like, I'm not ashamed of anything that I like because, like, why would I be? But a book I have chosen for this is Mhairi McFarlane, It's Not Me, It's You. I think Mhairi McFarlane is an author who, I wouldn't call her a guilty pleasure author, but I would say that, like, I go to her when I need, like, something that I know is going to be a bit light, and also that's going to, like, put a smile on my face, cheer me up, that sort of thing. That's, like, what I count as, like, guilty pleasure, is, like, just, like, a pleasure for when I'm feeling a bit glum. And so I find Mhairi McFarlane is sort of one who I really like. These are sort of like light, funny romances type thing. I don't read a huge amount of romance, but every now and then I like really crave one. And I feel like Mhairi McFarlane is one that I kind of always know what it's going to be like going in, and I always really enjoy it for what it is, and that sort of thing. The next question is Netflix, a series you want to start. I would really like to start The Diviners by Libba Bray. Miriam at Between Lines and Life has recommended it to me. I've seen it all over Booktube. I know Kate also really enjoyed The Diviners and is now on like a 20s reading thing, which has been really interesting, and I just, like, I know it's going to be a series that I really enjoy. I really liked Beauty Queens by Libba Bray, so I've sort of like already dipped my toe into her as an author, and I just need to, actually, I was going to say I just need to read it. I have a hold on at the library for the first book, but obviously library closed, not going to have that for a while, so like when I was on it, and now I've like put it on pause, but I am going to get there, and I know I'm going to really enjoy it. Deep Clean, a book that has been on your TBR for ages. I kind of have like a little selection of books that would answer this prompt because I have a number of books which I've had since I was a child and I can't remember if I've read them. Like, if I have read them, then I've forgotten all detail of them. The one I've gone for is Redwall by Jaques because this is the first book in the Redwall series. I also have the third book, but I do not have the second book, which leads me to believe that I never actually read these as a child, because if I had, either I've lost the second book, or maybe child Sophie just went into the third book and was like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't know, but I don't really remember them, so I'm going to just count them as unread. And that, if I haven't read that, then I have had that book since, for probably like 10 years. More than that. God, maybe like 15 years. I don't know. But I have like a little like pile of them, and I am like aware of them. There's some Jean Plaidy's in there. There's like a little bit more like different historical fiction, that sort of thing. But like I'm eking them out deliberately. I haven't forgotten about them. But yes, Redwall is one that I really do want to read because I know that it is kind of like a classic fantasy thing. I know that it's like animals. As you can see by the cover, I don't really know a lot more about that, but I know that a lot of people talk about this with a lot of love, so I would like to get to it soon. We'll see if that happens. The next question is Animal Crossing, a book you recently bought because of hype. Haven't actually bought this book yet, but it is my #1 priority book to buy. I will be buying Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. The only reason I haven't bought it yet is because as I exposed myself on my entire unread TBR video, I have quite a lot of books to read, and I've set myself like a point whereby once I've read X number of books that I already own, then I'm allowed to buy books again. I haven't reached that point yet, but I have been getting through books at quite frankly an ungodly rate recently. And so I am getting near to the point where I will be able to buy books again, and I'm not going to go crazy. I have like a little list that's like my priorities to buy, and Priory of the Orange Tree is at the top of that because I think I'm in the right zone right now to really enjoy Priory how I would like to enjoy it. If you would like to know other books that are on that list, there's Bring Up the Bodies, which is the second book in the Wolf Hall series. There's Dead Famous, which is Greg Jenner, who is the historian who was the historical consultant on the Horrible Histories TV series. His book all about sort of like the history of like celebrity and like that sort of stuff, which looks really interesting. Oh god, there's loads, but that's just a snippet. The next question is productivity, a book you learnt or had an impact on you. I've gone for two because one is a lot heavier than the other one. So starting with my heavy one is How to Survive the Plague, the story of how activists and scientists tamed AIDS by David France. This is an immensely affecting book, but it is also one of the best non-fiction books I've ever read. It's given me a much better understanding of the AIDS crisis and what happened, you know, how the activists worked hard, how the scientists worked hard, a lot of the roadblocks that were put in the way, a lot of the things that made everything take a lot longer than it should have taken. It made me very angry reading this book. I have a lot of anger towards certain people, which I think is correct feeling to have, given that people were dying and that sort of thing. But I've always wanted to make sure I have enough of an understanding of this particular moment in history. There are so many moments in history which I need to understand better than I do. This was one that I was very consciously aware of, and you know, I'm glad I did. I recommend it to people constantly. It is obviously not the easiest thing to read, especially not when we are currently in our life situation, but it is a book that immensely affected me and I learned so much from it. A slightly lighter answer to this question is The Golden Thread by Kassia Sinclair, which is all about how fabric changed history. Each different chapter in this focuses on a different time in history and a different type of fabric, and it's sort of looking at how important that fabric was for that particular time. I thought I was going to be most interested in the historical times. Actually, I was most interested in the more contemporary stuff that was looking at the types of like fabric engineered for swimming, and how there's a whole controversy there with how much you're allowed to do that. Fabric when they were first planning the moon landing. Fabric, there's like these guys who are trying to like be able to make garments from spider silk, which is crazy wild. So yeah, just a lot of this was a lot more fun and like lit me up a bit while reading it. But yes. Facetime, a book you were gifted. I've already mentioned her, but the lovely Miriam at Between Lines and Life sent me her spare copy of Night's House by Leigh Bardugo. Now that I have read Six of Crows and really liked it, I have Crooked Kingdom to read after that, but I think that might be me like adjusting to Leigh Bardugo a bit, like I'm feeling it. I am really excited to read this. I know that this is a darker one. I am not in the right place to read this right now. I will be eventually. I'm very excited to see what Leigh Bardugo doing slightly more adult literature is like, because I really enjoyed Six of Crows, and my critique of Six of Crows is that I felt like the characters should be older. I felt like they should be adults, not teenagers. So I am excited to see what her doing adult fiction is like. I'm just not quite ready for a dark book. I'm reading a lot of like bubbly escapism at the moment instead. Self-care, what is one thing you have done recently to look after yourself? Doing a couple of things. I am that bitch who started up yoga. Because I'm still working and working from home, I'm trying to maintain a similar schedule because I'm still doing my same hours. So the time I would previously be using to commute, I'm now using to do only like 10 to 20 minutes maximum of yoga in the mornings. But I'm also, I realised doing yoga that I have no strength. I am like a puny little weak soft girl, which I'm fine with. But I would like, in case of an emergency, to be able to support my own body weight. This is the aim I've set. Oh, my phone agrees. So yeah, I've set myself a goal of just like being able to support my body in a plank position and not immediately crumble and swear at Adrian. So I've also been doing occasional weights because I just want to have strength to open jars. I've been eating lots of veggies, because I love my veggies, and I just, whatever the shop has available, I'll find a way to cook with them. And also, really crucially, is non-internet time. I think I mentioned this, I don't know if I've posted this before or after my favourites video, but I will also mention this in my favourites video. If you're someone who I chat to, I'm sorry if I've disappeared from a conversation, or if I haven't replied to you, or if I've taken like 2 weeks to reply to you. I'm finding interneting all the time overwhelming, essentially. I saw this Instagram post the other day by Body Posy Panda, who you're probably already familiar with because she's amazing. She does a lot of body positivity stuff. And then the picture itself said, just because you have time doesn't mean you have to give it all to other people. And then the caption said, just here to remind you to check in with yourself as often as we're being reminded to check in with other people. It's totally okay if you don't have the emotional energy to video chat, call, text, or be on social media constantly. It doesn't make you a bad friend, just a person who's managing a very mentally draining time the best they can. Time is not the same thing as capacity. Take care of you too. And I kind of really needed to hear that, because I don't know about you, but when everything started to kick off, I did a lot of social, checking in with everyone, lots of video calls, everything. I can't do that to the same extent that I was doing that, and I think it's important for myself to recognise that, because as well as everything, which is already a lot, life has continued. There's been some other stuff that's, I'm not going to talk about it, like, there's been other stuff going on as well in my life, which I've found a bit tricky, and I just think reminding myself that just because I am technically, there's no excuse not to do things, because what else are you doing? Sometimes what else I am doing is just looking after myself, and that's something which I've had to remind myself. And now that I've slightly more implemented, like, here is time when I can reply to people, or like if I have a message come in, I sometimes feel bad for not immediately responding or blah, whereas now I just give myself, like, if I don't feel up to it, like, I give myself like allotted time where I'm like, this time I will use to reply to messages, and sometimes I forget, and sometimes I leave it 2 weeks, and I'm really sorry, but also I'm only a human tiny bean, and we're doing what we can. So I think that's been really helpful, like just reminding myself that just because I am in lockdown doesn't mean I'm available. I can just have time to chill and recharge and do actual self-care that is practical and necessary. So yes. Final question, just to move away from the deep, is name a book coming out soon that you're excited for. I'm going to name one that has just come out, which I'm excited for, and that's Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. Which is about, Hamnet was Shakespeare's son who died, who Hamlet, the name, is briefly based on. But I think the book itself is focusing on like Shakespeare's wife, which is just like an interesting angle. And I have a friend who's really into Tudor history, which is why I've been reading a little bit of Tudor history recently, and I don't know, it's made me more excited for this book than I've always been excited for this book, but it's made me be like, ooh, Tudor stuff. So yeah, that's one that's just come out, which I'm excited to read at some point in the future. I didn't think about tagging people, so I'm going to do it off the top of my head, which could backfire horrendously. If you fancy doing it, and absolutely no pressure if this is not something that you fancy putting your time into, I'm going to tag Kate, I'm going to tag Charlie, and when it comes to, I always say and do a third, and then my brain immediately upon finishing the syllable just goes nothing. I'm going to leave it there. I'm just going to tag 2 people. I'm sure I've forgotten people. I'm very sorry. I'm all over the world. If you would like to do this and I didn't tag you, please do just like do it and then tell me that you've done it, and I'll watch it and it'll be lovely and glorious. But otherwise, I hope you're having a really lovely day. I hope you're having lots of sunshine and brightness wherever you are, and I'm going to see you next time for something different.